Okay. Now, some of us may not know, but you were one time a representative of this state.
Oh, yes.
Would you like to talk about it?
I was in the Alabama House of Representatives for 20 years. Prior to that, I was an elected member of the Mobile County School Board for 4 years. And I went into the legislature with the hope of being able to involve myself in education. I found as a member of the Mobile County School Board that I was unable to get at impacting on the educational process for children in the classroom because there was so much politics going on between board members and community groups that are different. And then there was the Mobile County public school system that had been under court order to desegregate since about 1962.
It's the Bertie Mae
Davis
case.
The Bertie Mae Davis. And they closed black schools. There was not a single white school in Mobile County that would either change from high school to middle school or closed, modified in any shape, form, or fashion. Mobile County Training School, the oldest black school of its type in the nation, and then in the state of Alabama in particular, was closed and made into a middle school, or a junior high school, then became a middle school as middle school. Central High School was closed completely. They never even locked the doors. They kind of like slammed it and said, that's in Central High School. Transferred the students that were going to go to Central High School to a junior high school in Tolmanville that had been an all-white junior high school. It had been closed and condemned because of asbestos. But they transferred and made it a Central High School satellite for a year, and then it became Tolmanville High School. Black students.
With asbestos?
With asbestos, right? It was never challenged. As I said, they never closed a single white school. They forced black teachers to go to white schools. They said, you go to that school or you are not employed. Well, it's the right to work state, so you don't have a union option and ability to strike or anything else like that. White teachers were allowed to come and try out black schools. Go over there and see if you like it. If you like it and want to stay, you can stay. Most white teachers did not like being in the environment of all black students. They had no stomach for it. They didn't know how. It wasn't that they disliked our children. They just did not know and understand that we were human.
The environment, the way of raising people was just different. Communication. Yes.
They would overreact to the slightest innuendo. Someone would say, "Get out of my chair," and they think a fight started. Okay, it's not a fight. It's territorial and it's mostly bluster. Okay, but they had never had experiences with black people. They'd never gone to school themselves with black people. They went to all white colleges and universities. Okay. Their parents were white. Their doctors and associates and neighbors were white. What do they know about black people? What can they teach black people other than something that is purely academic? And if you start doing only that which is academic, then you are training like training a dog. That's not education. That's not education, exactly. So they had a difficult time with children as a result. Because the children, one thing about most young children, even the teenagers, they can tell when the person's not sincere.
Yes.
Okay, so if you're someplace where you don't have to be, and you don't want to be there, they can leave you. Black teachers, on the other hand, can teach a fence, okay? They, in the time of my growing up, in the time of my being, say for instance, here in the 70s, most of, if not all of the black teachers had advanced degrees, at least to a master's level, and had attended HBCUs, historically black colleges and universities. And as a result of that, they brought that type of thing with them. They felt that they could teach these children, and they knew these children and how to talk to these children, to tell them the things they need to hear. sit down and shut up. White teachers couldn't do that. You see, they didn't have the capacity, they didn't have the language. And regrettably, I do think that fear was a large part of it. Because the only thing they knew about us is what they've been told by somebody else. Okay, so you're fearful. And if you're afraid, you can't teach. A lion tamer must show no fear. And for showing fear is not just sweating and crying. Your pheromones, your body generates odors secondary to anxiety. And I don't know whether children can pick that up, but they can tell by body language.
I've been in education. Well, I've been in education education's been in me a long time, but I've been an educator where professionally for 30 years. And I talk about on one of my videos where I was in alternative ed, which would be now special ed.
Right.
So I was there, so I know what it feels like to be in special ed, and we'll talk about that a little bit more.
All right.
But I also know because I know what it feels like, I know what children feel like when you don't relate to them on the level that is necessary to learn.
That's right. And I think, I don't know whether it's biblical or not, but a child is not an empty vessel. They come to school at any grade level, full of things that they have learned. They are educated when they come to school. Teaching is not education. Okay? To be taught is to be trained. Education is what takes place after you've gotten the knowledge. Teaching gives you knowledge. It's like the ABCs. You're taught the ABCs, but you can't make words. And if you make words, once you make words, you still have to make sentences. And you have to make sentences that are coherent. So you have to not only know the ABCs, you need to know how to put them in order to get the words in order to get the sentence in order to get the syntax and the context, and all of that to make sense of what you're thinking.
You saying that, when I started this channel, Astounding Bounds TV, I was given Astounding Bounds a long time ago.
Got it.
Like boundaries,
Right.
it's where the limits surpass the skies.
Understand.
Not the sky's the limit.
Right.
So when you talk about education, you know, I don't want people just to think that it's just about, oh, you've gone to school and learned. Most of my learning has come after I've finished school. And
Right.
so I like how you
And that is it. The content in almost every human society, schooling takes place. Schooling is training. You're trained to fulfill some function in that community or in that society. You're trained to fulfill some function in that society. Schooling, even in the Amazon, is designed to teach you how to do certain types of things that you and or your community will need. That's schooling. But when you leave the environment of schooling, that's when you go out and start catching fish, trapping fish, or getting a job. Okay, when you do those things, you're learning a whole lot more than you were told and taught. You put words together with the ABCs that you never taught. Okay,
Right.
That's continued lifelong learning. And that is supposed to be the purpose of a schooling environment, to give you the tools necessary to continue to learn independently of some outside source.
And that is one of the reasons why, also for this channel, Astounding Bounds TV, take advantage of the knowledge that they can learn earlier,
Right.
and that you as a parent can help your child, who you've been designated to by God to have and to learn and to teach. You can do that, and that's anybody can do that.
Absolutely. When you realize that child from birth, well, actually in utero,
Yes.
before born is learning. It's hearing his mother's heartbeat. It's hearing external sounds to her body. Okay. And we wait and say, well, we're going to start just 4 and 5. It's 5 years too late. Okay. A child can learn any language that they're taught as soon as they come into life, as soon as they can breathe. As a matter of fact, they are communicating with you even when they cry. They just don't have the words that you understand.
Right.
Okay? So, and the child is taught and learns to manipulate. He or she cries, and mothers learn That baby's crying because it's wet. That baby's crying because it's hungry. That baby's crying because it wants to be held and cuddled. Fathers, on the other hand, are not enculturated.
Now, I must say,
So, okay, all right. Here we go.
I have to say, because I know they're going to watch this. At least one father that I know
Okay,
who
all right.
has taken care of his children.
Okay, all right. Okay.
He was the primary, so.
Okay, well, there are exceptions to the rule.
And there are exceptions
There are
to the
exceptions
rule,
to the
but
rule.
not only are there exceptions, I want for Astounding Bounds TV to maybe be one of the first shows or help me with words, forum to make a difference, because there are societies where fathers are just as paternal as a mother is maternal, and they take it very seriously that the seed that they put here will be in the best shape possible for this world while we're here. And
Absolutely. Western society, that means that, for example, the UK, British, even this continent, Western Hemisphere, Anglo and Caucasian.
yes.
Okay. Regrettably, they have learned, not in school, they've been taught by repetitious and rote how to treat people who are different than themselves. There is only one race. It's the human race. Okay?
Yes.
But we're told that you're black, I'm white, he's Hispanic, or whatever. No, we're all humans. As long as we can interbreed,
Yes.
we are the same species.
Yes.
But maybe in the 1700s or 1600s, it was decided that people need to be categorized so that we can then establish, not say we, but so the society decides who was in the hierarchy and who was down below.
Yes.
And that has extended to the current day and will be going on tomorrow and the day after. Hopefully Bounds here can push the envelope.
Astounding Bounds will, especially because I have been so, again, honored to have someone who has so much knowledge that I know is very well respected by many in our society.
Well, I think that I appreciate that comment. But it's been you all, my students, former students, and friends and associates. I taught what I knew and understood in the best fashion I could, so that they would learn it, and not only learn it, but understand it, and to be able to use it. I think that was one statement that said, if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. Okay, all right, and everything you do, you hit it with that hammer. And everything doesn't need to be hit with a hammer. Okay, but in Western society, I'm speaking of the United States in particular, to train people to be subservient to the structure of American society's, quote, educational system. It really wasn't education, it's schooling and training. But not only did black people get trained to be subservient, white people got trained to believe that they were superior with no tests, no experiments, no examples to show, hey, you are superior, except you separate people from you, from all the things that would allow them, such as tools of education, schooling, ABC blocks. So every time you come across someone who can't read, you say, well, hey, that's how they are. Well, that's how they are because the society withheld education and reading from them for 400 years.
Oh, yes. And then the way we speak, I could say, they talk about ebonics.
Oh, yeah.
I could go, I'm very bilingual.
Yeah, go on, girl. Tell me about this stuff.
We're bilingual, but to be able to communicate and understand and to go into different places, to be what we call bilingual.
Well, did you know that most of these kids, black kids, since before, all the way back, black people have been polylingual. I'll put it polylingual.
Yes.
They had to understand what Master said. Because if they didn't understand what Master said, they didn't do what Master wanted them to do, and they got beat, whipped, or killed. Okay? But when they talked among themselves, they didn't talk about and like Master. Other than use the only words they had was the vocabulary that Master gave them. Because he would not let them use their drums, He would not let them speak their own languages. Why? Because Master knew how to effectively undermine a population of people. Not because he wanted to use them, but because he wanted to use them. Okay, if they can't speak to each other, they can't plan an uprising.
Now, Dr. Mitchell, through the years, sometimes there have been some controversy with some of the things you say, but what you've said today is true. Things that's true. But how in this society, because there are very many people that I meet, truckers, everybody treats me, I feel good with everybody. They treat me kind. I don't have anything. Sometimes I can, first of all, I don't have anything against them. They don't have anything against me.
Right.
They're white and Hispanic and black. I've not had problems, and I've been almost everywhere.
Yes, well, I don't say that you are an exception. I only say that the history of how the majority of black people are treated places them in the positions that they are in today. Why is that not a black owner of McDonald's? Okay, we used to have a few more here. Why is that not in it? Well, the economics says you have to have a certain amount of money. It's collateral. Well, what do you have collateral? Collateral goes back to World War I, World War II. GI Bill, you could not buy a house, therefore you did not have any collateral, therefore you couldn't raise any money, therefore you couldn't go into business on your own, and that also meant that you did not have any inheritance to leave to your children. And they could not collateralize anything. So the process of not having people in an environment where they could earn has transcended slavery all the way to today. And no, it is not every white person. It is not. That's
And
a black folk I don't
it's
want to
not. It might not be. It might be. And I have. You know how we say we have friends. I have friends that I love dearly, and one like a neighbor. I discussed with her about slavery, and she said, "Well, the slaves wanted to be," and that's how she feels. So she's 80, almost 90 years old.
Right.
I told her I had to love her, and I do love her, and I see her sometimes, but that mindset is there.
Inherited. It's inherited.
But she deeply
She
don't mean anything.
No, she
about
doesn't.
it.
What she doesn't mean it in an aggressive, negative fashion. But she's expressing only that which she has come to understand. That's something called cognitive dissonance. When a person that all their life has believed something, every place they've been has believed it, and then they come into an environment where it is not true and or accurate, and everything shows that it's not. They have a cognitive, mental dissonance or discord because it doesn't set in the head. How can it possibly be? That was a movie called Planet of the Apes, and this guy, the apes was saying that you can't fly. The guy folded up a piece of paper and threw it, and it flew. The ape went over to it, picked it up, could not understand the concept, and balled it up to the way. Okay, that's cognitive dissonance. And your dissonance is the difference between what is, what you can accept. And cognitive dissonance means it's far easier to go along with what you always know than to change it based upon you, for example. Okay. Your drivers, your associates on the road, okay, they respect you. Okay, respect you because of your accomplishments and your capacity. Well, you take a population of people who've never been respected and never been allowed to show their own independent capacities. So there's no dissonance because that's the way they are. Okay, and they are that way because that's how they are. They've always been this way. They don't know about Timbuktu. They don't know that the pyramids were built by persons who were not European. If you take the scriptures, if you look for the Garden of Eden, it's between, by way of the scriptures, it's between the Tigris and Euphrates. There is no Tigris or Euphrates any place on the planet except in Africa.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's why when you go to church and you see an image on the wall, that image can turn people off who've always been criticized or penalized by a person who looks just like her. So you go to church on Sunday, you see only black women in the church. Why are black men? Well, I work for one guy who looks just like the one on the wall, and I'm uncomfortable. I don't say it, but I feel it. So these are things that are left over and have been carried over for quite some time. I would have not acquired a lot of my experience had it not been for white folks, because they had the understanding of processes, political processes for where the jobs were for them, okay, where the money was with the jobs. And that's why we want our kids, some of us want our kids to go to Harvard and Yale and Princeton, because they then rub elbows with those people who probably, if they rub elbows, they figure they can get in with them.
And then, you know what, in all fairness, without telling all of my experience,
Okay.
right now, the way I am able to communicate with different people,
Right.
it came because of my childhood, and so there are many people who don't have that experience.
That's
so,
right.
but if you can be cordial and show someone, you know, I'm like this, they want to entertain you. They want to be able, and they're happy to talk.
They lose their apprehension.
Yes.
Okay. And the issue of fear is not inherent. Children come into the world, they don't care what color you are, what color, how tall you are, what color your hair. They don't care. They learn that scientific experience associated with that type of thing. If you go into a classroom with kids who have blue eyes are favored, those who have brown eyes, even white kids, begin to avert their eyes because they don't want people to see that they don't have blue eyes. The Aryans, the Germans, okay, blonde hair, blue eyes, Aryan,
The straight hair, the curly hair.
all this type. Yeah, exactly. See? So you get this into a person's mind or people's mindset, and they annihilate it. Black people who were brought into this country slaves, all of those who died before they got here, that was the Holocaust. Okay, we talk about the Jewish Holocaust. I did not know what a Jew was until I came from over where I was at. There were Jews in rural Georgia, but I did not know what a Jew was. They all looked alike. If you look at the part of the world that started Christianity, remembering that Jesus wasn't a Christian. Okay, all right, so Jesus wasn't a Christian.
Right.
Everybody wants to be like Jesus, but Jesus wasn't a Christian. But say, I'm a Christian. But you see, so we find ourselves also with dissonance. Okay, the population. How do you tell a Jew? What is it? Can you look at one and tell them? I don't know. Maybe their characteristics. Okay, I don't know.
And you can tell one about as much as I could tell if you were Catholic.
Okay, exactly. Well, I mean, you see, are you African or African descent?
I am with
Okay.
the mix of what I don't fully know.
We don't know, but we can be assured.
And I'm going to find out some kind of way.
But we can be assured that some kind of way
I got
you are
it.
closely related to the beginning. Okay. In my travels, I've traveled North Africa in places that we call the Holy Land. The Tigris and Euphrates, the soil on the banks of the Tigris and Euphrates is not like it is on the beach in Florida. Okay. It is dark. And if you want to follow the word, the scripture to the word, the breath that was breathed into the clay was breathed into the dark clay. Now, I'm not going to do that, but I'm going to say that we
Because
have
of distance, so far, we can go so far.
Okay, all right, but we have to learn.
But you know what? I'm so in love with dirt.
Wait a minute, are you that President
Not
Company?
that. No, not
President
that.
Company.
You know, my daughter had asked someone, what did I want for Christmas? And I said, I want some dirt, some dark dirt, because I want to be able to grow
your own food.
Someone just told me yesterday, I have to look it up. You tell me if you know about that they've made a law that you cannot grow your vegetables, and I know you used to grow.
We still do.
You still, Now, if they made a law, I'll put this up.
No, I believe that what they're probably talking about is you can grow your own roses, but it's difficult to come when you get to try to sell them. Okay. And then when you start selling them, now instance, government has to get their head in the business, particularly if you're selling a lot. This year, Georgia, Fort Valley, Georgia, which is one of the peach growing capitals of the world, they had a 9% crop loss. Okay, so the cost of peaches went up. But if everybody can sell peaches and grow peaches, the price of peaches will come down because now people can buy.
Yes.
But that's the same thing about cannabis. I don't smoke, never have. But I'm saying that if everybody can grow their own, the price of it on the
It's
street
too happy
will
of
go
a
down.
place.
Well, you'll find people walking around saying, what?
Well, no. And for the record, I don't smoke it either.
And I don't drink it, never got around to it. I guess I was maybe a little bit too paranoid or too busy.
Just introvert. I mean, you were
That's
always
good.
in the book. Now, I can't say. Sometimes I socially drink.
Right.
But flies. But
Oh.
so I mean, you said a lot. See else. But I can't. And you transfer
I got
a big amount. Let's see if you hadn't reached everything. I think in this situation we talked about. I want to ask your opinion about. I mean, you know how people would say things are getting better, and there are some things that might be better.
Right. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction. So when something gets better, something also gets worse. Okay. May not be the same. It gets worse. Black people started protesting discrimination, wanting their rights. And if you look up now in the street, you see everybody wants their rights. And they're using the same mechanism to get them. Protests, marches, sign carrying, banners. They are hopefully voting, you see. In the process of changing power structures, it's about the same. You get enough people, you can change things. But there was one statement I heard some decades ago. An organized minority, numerical minority, can defeat a lesser organized majority at any point in time. And the reason is this organization.
We saw that
Okay,
with
right.
2008.
That's exactly right. And underestimating your opposition on the internet is not a wise or prudent thing. The 2000, what was the election that got, he just left, not Obama, but the guy who came in afterwards. He applied, knowingly or unknowingly, a organizational psychology on population of people. He made them feel that he was like them. And they voted for someone who was like him.
Yes.
Okay. He didn't bring up the fact that he was rich and they weren't. Okay.
And they didn't care.
No.
It was only two people to vote on. So.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And then they picked one closest to that would do what they wanted.
Well, you asked me a question about me being in the legislature. My parents were no political actors that I knew of. To an extent, they had the Albany movement in Albany, Georgia. We lived there for 10 years. The sheriff in Albany, Georgia, deflated the movement, the Albany movement, by not utilizing marches. He would treat them civilly, put them on buses and ship them over to other counties. He wasn't filtered on there. Dr. King in that particular movement and strategy was that we could show the world how brutal racism is. Then they will stand up with us. Well, Sheriff Pritchard, now his name is Pritchard, teaching. He was wise enough. He was racist, he was wise enough to understand that I don't want the media all over Albany, Georgia. So to keep him out, I don't give him the trouble. And it worked. It effectively worked. The process of him being a minority, being well organized and better organized than King's majority, proved positive for him and negative for the Albany movement. And again, I say he was racist. Albany was the most racist place you can ever come, and it's still there. It doesn't change overnight. It keeps going. Maybe get a little less racist as the generations go on. But you find other ways to exclude people. And one is to fall on the falseness of the myth of what race is. As soon as individuals can really understand without the dissonance that we're the same race, I optimistically say that much of our problems associated with social things and progress will cease to be.
Well, in Florida, which is a beautiful state, I love to drive through there with my pilot car because it's only go straight down 10.
Right when you're there.
But someone was afraid for me to go there because they told me that the laws have changed where they're. And I said, well, what happened? Because I need to be a little bit more astute about the law. I'm not laws, but news and stuff.
Right.
But it gets to be too much sometimes. But just not acknowledging slavery and all that. But I don't remember seeing it. That I may have seen a paragraph when I was in high school.
Right.
About that.
About slavery.
Yeah.
Well, let's remember now, the people who wrote the textbooks were not us.
Yeah.
The people who bought the textbooks were not us. Textbooks nationally, even to this day, are based upon the readership in California, Texas, Florida, and maybe New York. Okay? And the publishers are not really caring about truth and history. They want to sell books. You can't sell the Christian Bible in Saudi Arabia. Why?
Muslim.
Right. They got their own book. Okay, so in trying to market these textbooks, they put in what is going to sell, or they leave out what would be distracting.
So what would you tell a person, which I have asked, like some people I know, some white people,
Right.
I have asked them, how do they feel? And some feel guilty,
Yeah.
and they didn't really do anything.
Yeah. Well, that's not a misplaced guilt. Go ahead.
They didn't do anything. And I have a friend that I stayed overnight with. We had a very wonderful time with each other. We used to teach.
Okay.
In fact, she wrote a book, and I wanted to do an interview with her. But I don't know if this book would sell, but she put herself in the place of a black man.
Right.
And she wrote that book, and I read some of it. I told her I want to hear the book instead of read it.
Right.
But I know that people will have something to say to her about this book because of who she is.
Right.
But the thing is, people have feelings.
Right.
That's white and black, and they didn't do anything per se.
Well, yeah, they didn't personally, but they have benefited and are suffering.
Well, look what we benefit from.
Well,
I benefit from being gorgeous.
Of course, you're absolutely, I agree.
You benefit from
See,
you got your.
you can't even think of
Yes,
words.
I can.
If you can't dazzle them with brilliance, you baffle them with...
Look, you benefit from being able to, with your education, you benefit from, you look at you got all the hairs on your head. And so many people, they cut theirs off because they don't get it off. You benefit from some things that other people don't.
And where would I be had my great-great-great-grandparents not been enslaved? Are not even brought here. Oh, now see, so this is a benefit?
No, I'm not saying that's a benefit.
I
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying where do and how do something change when you're, how can we change it without still being reminded of it? There's no way.
No, there's no way. You got to know, the only way to go someplace else and different Good to know where you've been. Okay. That was a friend of mine in Texas A&M. One of my professors said, if you want to do something new and change things, you really are built around the notion, I've got to change things, I can do it. He said, don't go to the cutting edge to find out what's going on at the cutting edge. Go to the morgue, find out where they died and what killed them. In doing that, you will find out whether or not you are trying to build and do something that's already been killed. Okay? You do that first, and then you survey your environment to see where the pitfalls are and what has already died. So that you can avoid those pitfalls, you may make incremental steps forward. You may not make large steps forward. So we have to look at making the minute steps necessary and leaving a trail so the next person, so that this person can move even further.
Now, the issue is, there's a possibility that it's something that many people don't want to be doing.
Well, yeah, but you see, I believe right now that while there are few of those people who don't want to change, regrettably they're in powerful positions. And that governmental power or monetary power gives them control over Congress, over state legislatures, not so much over your water bills, but over who's on the board to make sure your water is safe to drink. Okay? That type of power. There are two books that I think are worth reading. One is called Who Rules, and the other is Who Really Rules. If you want to find out who rules, you can go down the street and ask people, well, if you want to get that pothole fixed on the street, who would you go and talk to? If they say, I'll go and talk to my city council person. Okay, you go and talk to the city council person. I haven't been in government for 28 or 26, 25 years. The government ain't going to help you. Okay, if somebody says, I'm in the government, not here to help you, run like a starving dog. Okay, it's not true, they're not going to help you. But that person may be Miss Hattie down the street, because Miss Hattie's son works in public works, and he can come by first thing in the morning, put some asphalt and hold him back down before he goes to the other job on public works money. Okay, he can do that. But if you go to your accountant, he's going to first put in the process, write a note, and he can send that note over to a desk, and that desk is going to sit on the secretary's desk and get a note how long. She's going to take it, look at it, read it, decide who else it needs to go to. He's going to type it up and send it to another secretary. He's going to sit right there. So the government is not designed to help. The government is probably designed to ignore things that mean you got to change something. Okay. But who really rules? Ruling is not so much about the power to stop things. It's more like the power to do things. Okay. And if you have the power to stop something from happening, or you have the power to do something to stop something from happening, you have a type of power. Black folk were not voting because they were not able to vote for somebody who was recognized as a representative, who could then extort maybe from a system. I'm going to withhold my vote on that. You need one more vote in order to pass it. I'm going to withhold mine. Even though you couldn't pass it by yourself, they can pass it out. So you got power.
The leverage is...
That's the city of Mobile right now. They got 3 and 3. 3 Caucasians, 3, what do they call it? Okay, I'm going to go color-wise here. Black and white. Okay. It's not black and white issues, but it's about power. And 3 and 3 is not power. You have to find some person to swing, so you get 4 to 3. That's power. The power to stop, the power to start. That's why redistricting is important. That's why who you vote for is important. You vote for somebody not based upon their race, but based upon their ethos, what they believe, how they feel about the things. The previous Republican administration was elected by people who believe like he does. They want power. They figured he can make a power. at least not as powerless.
Saying your mouthful. You got something to say more about that? Because I want to ask you. Because in society today, just yesterday, I did get a chance to see something about the news and about affirmative action. And I would love your take on the good of it, or what they're saying is not good for it.
Okay, let's look at what happened before affirmative action. Before affirmative action, for example, in education, education
Yes.
and schooling. Before affirmative action, you had a limited number of persons of ethnic diversity in certain colleges and universities. Before affirmative action. But long before that, the schooling and education environment for persons of certain ethnicities, black folks,
Yeah.
was limited or nil and none. Okay? Why was that? Politics. They don't want to be educated, because when you become educated, you're going to compete with my child for that job. My child is not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Okay? They want you to be competing because you're sharper than my child. That's not anti-black. That is pro-you. What black people need to understand to be pro-them, not anti-white. That's a waste of energy, time, and spirit. Okay? They need to be pro-them and do those things necessary to promote themselves educationally so they can promote themselves economically and promote themselves in terms of sociological, political, economic power.
So you're right into my next thought about when you said that, because what I would like to do is someone like me could be in alternative ed, reading on a 3rd grade level in the 6th grade, and I tell all my students this. So I have because I taught special ed, so I give them an example of how they can learn. And there are many students or many teachers now that I hear, they say, you were the best reading teacher that I know.
Yeah.
That's them saying it now. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew you got to learn, and you got to learn to read. If I'm going to be your teacher, I'm gonna give it my all, or else, like I told some principals, if I'm not doing a good job, if I'm not doing my best, I told them to fire me.
Right. Well, see.
I told them to fire me. As
right.
Several principals, I said, if I'm not, and I wasn't perfect, so
Of course.
I wasn't good at lesson plans.
Well.
Because it's in my head. I know what the kid needs. I know what each individual needs. And I cannot write all that down. By the time I write all that down, I don't have any time
and moment going lost.
to teach. So because I know where I was and what I needed, I know what each one of my students who I have learned their personalities and their shyness, their I'm bigger than you-ness.
Right.
Those are all just
But there's a difference. They are uncomfortable.
yes.
As a result of being uncomfortable, they go the only thing they know how, and that's the Bible.
Yes.
Let them be comfortable by learning and being educated. The route of comfort is easy.
And that's it.
Something like that.
That's good. But what I want to say is there something we can say, something we can do to make exactly what you just said? Make parents know it is your responsibility by God to be in charge of what happens to your children, especially those that we need to rethink how they're being put into special education. Now, I'm not knocking special education.
No, it's not the process of education. It is the process of including people or excluding people. I know people like that kid who's not the sharpest knife in the drawer. The reason that child is not in an alternative or special education class is his dad is a trumpet. Okay? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on toes.
We didn't step on a toe because we don't know, we're not talking about anybody
We're not talking about,
specifically.
we call no names.
We're not talking, but I want to make a difference in life. I happen to know that we're here and one day we're not going to be here.
Right.
Our ancestors were here, and like I had gone to Africa Town, and I'm going to show you the video. Those people there was 110 people that was on Matilda. Their genes and their DNA can never be erased. They're here in Mobile and in dispersed in places.
Right.
Just like ours from over in Benin or wherever it started. Those DNAs will be traced forever if we trace them.
Right.
So we cannot erase what's in us.
What we have to do, I think, what was this guy's name? He runs for political office, Jesse Jackson said, it's not genes, it's agenda. Okay? We have in our genes those things necessary to do a pyramid. Okay? To map the sky. To make calendars come to 3 or 4 millennium after we made the calendar. But it's not, that's in our genes, that's everything we've done. But the agenda has been different for us now. The agenda has not been our agenda, it's been other people's agenda. I don't want these people competing with my people. So I'm going to change their agenda by changing, not giving them access to quality education. We start off with affirmative action. We want affirmative action not because, like discrimination, I want my kids to sit next to your kids in school. Now if the student's falling down, I mean, my student's falling down. I don't want my kids sitting next to your kids if that student's falling down. And I don't necessarily need your kids to sit next to my kids. I want my children to have the same access to the same tools that your child has, so that my child can compete with your child. And my child's neighbor. Okay. The competition is to design a process by which quality comes forth.
Well, how do you, everybody wants the best for their own child.
Sure.
Regardless of who it is. You can, in my thought is that I always try to do the best with my one child I had. What I thought was the best. I'm not going to say everything was the best, but it's good in how I educated her and some not so good.
Right.
But we are to use what we have to do our best, and I tend to want to compete with myself.
Well, we had a generation of people who couldn't read who were parents that wanted their children to be able to read. Okay. We're in an environment now where the parents can't read, and they don't really care too much about whether their own children can. They've been told over several decades, maybe generations, 25 to 30 years, or maybe 2 or 3 generations now, they've been told, your input is not important in public school. Therefore, you're not going to teach it if you're important as a parent. So the parents then learn over a couple of generations, I'm not going to teach it, I'm not going to participate in the process, but that teacher called me for a minute. Okay. That's been an idea that has served enough time such that people begin to believe it. I feel differently. You probably do too. That a child does not accept authority outside the parent until such time as the parent conveys or transfer that authority to the teacher and principal. In loco parentis. Okay. That's the way the administration and government system. The child does not see that teacher. The teacher asks, well, you acting like that at home? So I said, no. Well, why you acting like that here? I'm not at home. Okay? We don't have corporal punishment. We don't have anything adverse to change the behavior of the child. And biological organisms change very fast as there's pain. It takes longer to change in a pleasant environment. But that check of pain with the pleasant environment creates a much longer change.
Well, now, I was thinking about that before I came. I was raised differently. I was raised where we So now, I spanked my child 3 times, and I didn't feel good after 3 times.
Well,
Because I thought about why I did it.
Well, my parents never told me why they spanked me the 2 times I got spanked. Okay, and I don't know how they felt about it, but it really had an impression on me.
Oh.
Okay, but what happened was, my punishment came almost immediately after I did wrong. There wasn't no long, drawn-out process where now I'm getting whipped for something. What did I do wrong? That was 2 years ago. That was last month or last week. On top of that, when I got my punishment, I got in the presence the way I did the wrong. Now it's, well, we don't want to shock the children.
Well, it's just bad to rod, spoil a child.
Yeah, well, it's bad.
But also, that kind of punishment was started in America.
Yes.
In many ways, to adults. So.
Well, I mean, in black folks in particular, desegregation is hard because but in part because I believe in corporal punishment. I don't want no white, no black person to spank my child. And then some black folks got the idea too. They didn't care who spanked them, just as long as they got the rod if they needed. And then suddenly they start recognizing, well, the black teachers cannot corporally punish white people. I don't know white people corporally punish them out. There are ways, as you know, to educate, train, get attention from children. Get the undivided attention without pain.
Yes.
Okay. We're talking about change again. We're trying to change something. When children come into the world manipulated, they cry until they get what they need, physically, biologically, spiritually. Okay. And the parents learn the sound of a cry. A mother knows the sound of her baby's cry and scream, and not the cry of another child scream, and knows what that child wants, their child. Okay. Other than that, it's a feel around like this
it?
and sniff.
That
Okay.
Yes.
But it's a learn. It's a two-way communication. But as adults, we also continue to cry out and try to manipulate the environment to get what we feel we want. Not what we need, but what we want. Now, the difference between what we need, government always lines up trying to give people what the government wants, not what the people want.
It is something when you get what someone wants or not what I.
I learned from my parents. My parents, and one of the questions about my folks, my parents believed that if they knew something and understood it, they could teach them right. And that impacted me very much. I felt that I knew and understood something. I could teach them. South Alabama, I felt the same way. That was my first second collegiate teaching school. I learned more from the students than I think I taught them. But my notion was, this book has 5 pages of any consequence for my students. There are 590 pages with no consequence. Why should my students pay $185 for this book and there are only 3 pages they need? So I said to go back and sell your book back to the bookstore, and I will Xerox those pages that you need.
Wow.
Okay. And because I knew what was going to be on tests that they would have left.
What they need and
what
still
they
remember.
Right. They did not need the book. They wanted the book because they thought it was necessary to pass this class. It was not necessary to pass my class.
So, many times I didn't buy the book because I could not afford the book.
Me either. I used to go to the library and check out 3 editions earlier. Same textbook, same material, same information. The author got told he got to publish a book. Okay, so he published the same thing, 3 pages, no, 12 pages. And now it's in the library.
Well, we live and we learn.
Oh, yes indeed.